Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the paradox of choice. And look, this book isn't just another shopping guide or a list of basic consumer tips. Instead, we're using this book by Barry Schwartz to explore something much deeper, the exact moment your freedom actually turns against you. Schwartz names this trap with such brutal calm, showing us exactly why a bigger menu can, paradoxically, shrink your life.
What if your fear of making the wrong choice is entirely produced by the size of the menu? You know the exact feeling we're talking about, right? 10 tabs open on your browser, 4 different shopping carts saved, 3 totally different career paths you're still keeping viable, 1 life waiting. You keep opening these tabs to feel safe, but the irony is, each tab just becomes another witness testifying against you. You probably call it diligent research, but often, it's just fear wearing glasses. You call it keeping your options open, but it's really just a door charging you rent.
Barry Schwartz reveals a pretty devastating shift that happens under the crushing weight of all these options. See, we aren't just choosing between objects anymore. The choice is no longer just between a laptop or a vacation. It's actually a choice between versions of yourself. Are you the smart self, the practical self, the self that absolutely no one can blame if things go wrong? That's the hidden wound here. Absolute abundance makes you literally unable to be satisfied.
The menu is not neutral. Now look, your logic isn't stupid. We all know that more options give us more reach, and more reach can theoretically create a better fit. A person with absolutely no options isn't noble, they're just trapped. But this book proves that the line between helpful options and paralyzing regret is incredibly thin. That menu trains you as the chooser. It makes the simple act of not knowing feel like a profound moral failure, and most of us cross this line feeling entirely responsible for our own paralysis.
Let's draw a hard line between two very distinct types of choosers. First, you have the satisficer. A satisficer has a clearly defined threshold, and the moment an option crosses it, boom, the search ends. But a maximizer? Well, a maximizer needs the absolute best. And the structural problem with that is best requires infinite evidence against every single rival option out there. It becomes an utterly exhausting trap. More options make me freer because I can always find the best one. I completely get why you might believe this. It feels valid. Honestly, it feels serious, adult, and highly responsible to have standards this high. You want the future to say you were careful, and you want the past to have absolutely no case against you. I really wish this were true, but we have to look at where this logic actually leads.
Welcome to what we can call the courtroom of best. If best is your ultimate goal, every single unexamined option becomes literal evidence of negligence. Every flashy new feature on a product becomes a possible regret. Heck, even a happy outcome has an imaginary competitor. Choice stacking turns your freedom into constant self-surveillance. You don't just pick something. You continuously monitor the version of yourself who picked it, you interrogate whether that self was informed enough, and then you punish the answer.
So how do we actually break this spell? It comes down to asking yourself one simple question. Did this meet the standard I set before the fear arrived? This cleanly moves the authority away from the endless, noisy market and puts it right back into your own mind. It makes the concept of enough a chosen line rather than some sort of consolation prize. If you can stop asking, is this the absolute best, and start asking, did this meet my standard, that endless, exhausting trial finally stops.
Picture a massive mixing console in a recording studio. If every single channel is live, the vocals, the drums, the static, the room tone, you don't get a better song, you just get noise. The amateur adds more volume, but the seasoned producer? They cut. Or think about cooking. Throwing in too many ingredients without a sequence doesn't make a masterpiece, it just makes mud. Knowing what you want isn't found in keeping all the channels cranked to full volume. Clarity requires a mix, and a mix is inherently a chosen loss. Your mind isn't weak, your station is just completely misdesigned.
This is what we call decision architecture. A better decision doesn't start when you're endlessly scrolling or staring at a massive menu. It actually starts before you even enter the room. You have to set your thresholds for price, for time, for your energy, and for your core values while your blood is still cool. You have to decide the reason before the image gets beautiful and seductive. This isn't just a mood, it's a structural room you build for yourself.
0. That is exactly the amount of freedom experienced by people who insist on keeping every single option open. Their bodies physically know it way before their ideology admits it. The jaw locks up. The eyes just keep frantically scanning. As UpGoWise teaches us, the clearest data is always visible right there in the room. More choice doesn't always increase your freedom. Sometimes it literally just increases the number of ways you can accuse yourself of messing up. So, the daily practice we need to adopt is pretty strict. Step 1, choose a threshold before the world has a chance to seduce you. Step 2, obey it when that shiny rival inevitably appears. And let's be clear, this is not about lowering your standards. It's about moving them upstream. You are not accepting less. You are forcefully refusing endlessness.
Here's a thought to really sit with. A life cannot be optimized while it is being lived. Optimization requires distance, but living a life demands your complete presence. That door you intentionally leave open, it still changes exactly how you walk past it. If you're constantly keeping a backup plan alive, the path you actually chose never receives your full, committed weight. We usually see this as a dilemma. Option 1, shrink the menu and feel entirely trapped. Or option 2, keep the menu wide open and stay owned by it. One feels narrow and restrictive, while the other feels sophisticated and smart. But the profound truth here is that both of these are symptoms of the exact same misunderstanding. They both exist solely to protect your deep fear of commitment.
The resolution to all of this is chosen constraint. Look, a master chef doesn't prove their skill by throwing every single ingredient into a pan. A brilliant strategist doesn't prove their intelligence by keeping every possible option alive forever. They prove it by intentionally closing a door in service of a fully lived life. A closed door is not a prison, it's simply the shape of a decision.
Ask yourself this right now. Are your open options genuinely giving you freedom? Or are they just trophies for a version of yourself that absolutely refuses to be wrong? The quiet truth of this book is that the intense fear of making the wrong choice is very often just the grief of letting go of those fantasy selves. Once you commit to something real, the fantasy of all those other potential lives dies. And yeah, that grief is real, but it absolutely does not deserve control over your life.
Let's look at the structural timeline for making this work. Before desire even enters the picture, define what enough is. During the search phase, choose the exact moment your threshold is met. And after commitment, completely close the door on comparison. You need to ban post-choice comparison for a sacred trial period. Give your chosen path the oxygen it needs to survive. Make enough your chosen law.
A clean boundary is what actually protects the warm, vibrant parts of your life. Rules made after desire enters the chat, they just become messy, exhausting negotiations. And yes, I know this boundary practice might feel a little cold or strict at first, but that coldness can be an absolute mercy. It removes all the drama of indecision. The whole point is to finally allow your life to hear itself above all that noise.
Because here is the brutal truth of the matter. Freedom ends the exact second comparison owns you. If you are constantly measuring what you chose against the infinite ghost of what you didn't, you are no longer free. You're just a prisoner to an ever-expanding menu. And no real life can be built out of escape routes.
So, here is your assignment. Delete one live option before the light returns. Pick one open loop in your life right now and make the cut. Let the silence teach you exactly what the noise was hiding. This is the decision. You have to make it now. Because if not now, then really, not ever.